author is bringing life back to the Bellefontaine Cemetery. There are some historic and extravagant graves for people like Mary Rexford. You may recall her as the Red Cross worker and the first woman to land on D-Day. Also, James Riley, he's the founder of Sigma Nu Fraternity, and Theodore Link, who, of course, designed Union Station. Joining us now to talk about the release of her new book is author Carol Faring Shepley. Good morning.
Good morning, Stephanie. Thank you.
First of all, tell everybody the long title of your book and what it means.
It's Movers and Shakers, Scalawags and Suffragettes, Tales from Bellefontaine Cemetery. And I gave it this title because that's the people I found here, just movers and shakers who not only changed St. Louis, changed the world, changed the whole country. Scalawags, there's some really bad people there, you know, people who were up to some pretty shady things. And suffragettes, women who fought for the vote, who really led the country in getting that.
Well, let's start from the beginning here. What inspired you to write this book and all of the research that went into it? Why did you want to do it?
I had always loved the cemetery. My own family is buried there, and my grandmother used to take me there as a child often. And I am a historian and an art historian, so the cemetery asked me to interview the gatekeeper and the superintendent, both of whom had been researching the cemetery, the people there, for 30 years. They didn't want to lose that knowledge. So I thought it would be maybe a 6-month project that I would just write up and they would maybe Xerox. And it turned into 5 years and just the most interesting project I've ever written. I mean, it makes me so proud of being from St. Louis.
And it came to fruition right there. And you are from St. Louis, and I know that that was part of why you wanted to do this.
Oh, absolutely. Finding about St. Louis history is so wonderful.
And there is so much, especially in that cemetery, with 87,000 people being buried there.
People. That's like a large city as it is. And I identified 1,000 worth writing about. So I wrote about 150.
150, and out of those 150, what was the most interesting story that you researched?
Oh, that is so hard. You know, I mean, my favorite person is maybe James Buchanan Eads, who designed the Eads Bridge, which we all look at all the time and sort of take for granted. I loved it when I was young because it was so beautiful, but I didn't realize that it was a bridge that changed the way we live. Before that, you couldn't cross a large body of water like that. And Eads had to drop out of school when he was 14 and sold apples on the riverfront. He was completely self-educated, and he's considered one of the 5 greatest engineers of all times because of that bridge.
Wow. Tell us what exactly you think that people find so fascinating about this particular cemetery.
Well, the cemetery, it was started by a group of St. Louis's leading citizens in 1849. From the beginning, they were so progressive that they wanted it to be completely non-sectarian. It's open to all races, so it's progressive that way, and then it's so beautiful, so that people come from all over the world to be buried there. Literally, the most recent burial in my book came all the way from Switzerland. His name is Sir Peter Smithers. He was Secretary General of the European Union, and he's a model for James Bond. He was in MI6 with Sir Ian Fleming.
Are there pictures in there of him?
I can't remember.
Read the book and find out.
So, yes.
So how far back does the cemetery date? Is it 1700s, even further back than that? Well,
there are people buried there, yes, from the late 18th century.
Okay, good. And there is a book signing coming up. Tell us the details on that.
It will be at the History Museum this weekend on Sunday at 2 o'clock. There will be a one-woman show about Eliza Haycraft, who I did unearth some things that weren't known. She was the biggest madam in town in St. Louis.
Uh-oh.
She wanted to be buried in Bellefontaine, where her most famous and wealthy clients were buried, and the cemetery originally said no. But then she said, well, I might have to talk to your wives. So,
well, that is an interesting story that we should look into.
Yes. So there'll be a one-woman show about her. Then I'll give a short talk, and there'll be a book signing.
Very good. A lot of rich St. Louis history in this book. Definitely worth the read.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Appreciate it.